A few years back, I did a retro, or as I like to call them, From the Vault review of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, an Xbox exclusive for my personal collection of games. It's a game that I enjoy, from a show that I enjoyed and watched the entire run of a few times now, and during that review I mentioned its sequel, Chaos Bleeds. I always liked the idea of doing a review of this one as well to sort of round out the collection of games, but I didn't ever really get around to it because honestly, I don't really like the game that much. But it was with the announcement of the Buffy revival recently that's in the works, along with this game pecking at the back of my head like a woodpecker on its lunch break, that I decided it was finally time. Before we start though, if you want to support the channel, you can subscribe, leave a small tip, or buy some merchandise. Link is in the description. So for those interested, especially the Buffy fans who are going to catch this, I really tried liking this game. The first game was developed by The Collective, and this time around it was developed by Eurocom and published by Vivendi Universal, and I think it was a mistake not having The Collective on this one again. I did check, and The Collective was still around until 2005, and with this being released in 2003, I couldn't really find why they didn't do it. I love beat-em-ups, and I want to like this particular one because it's Buffy, and that and Angel are a couple of my favorite TV series ever. I still think you could make an amazing action game out of Angel, and this whole universe has the world building down so well and so completely that you could probably do an MMO of it, or an open world game, and it would slay. Sorry. But when it comes to Chaos Bleeds, there are enough cracks that show in it after a while that as a whole, it had a lot going wrong with it that, in my opinion, made it inferior to the original. Let's talk about what I liked, because this does have some great stuff going for it. To start with, the voice acting and personality of the game is its strongest point by far. Just like the original, it feels like an episode of Buffy, possibly even like a mid-season finale or two-parter or whatever you want to call it. The original cast is back again with the exception of Sarah Michelle Gellar, again, Allison Hannigan this time, and Emma Caulfield. As an added bonus, we're joined by Sid the Dummy and Ethan Rayne, voiced by the original actors Tom Weiner and Robin Sachs respectively. Ethan was a recurring antagonist who was sort of a lovable scoundrel throughout the series, and Sid was a weird but interesting choice just because he was only in one episode of the show's first season as an ally to Buffy, and sort of a fun play on the whole killer doll trope that we've seen in movies like Child's Play. Everybody does a great job with the material they're given. In particular, Nicholas Brendan, James Marsters, and Anthony Head knock it out of the park again with their performances. Anthony in particular not only voices Giles, but also an alternate reality version of Ripper that really has to be seen because it's probably the best thing in this whole game. It was a huge treat to see Eliza Dushku come back as Faith as well, but that's mainly because Faith is one of my favorite characters, and I'm very biased towards her. Don't judge me.
You and I are gonna have fun, you know?
The story takes place in Season 5, presumably before Buffy's death fighting Glory, and Dawn isn't even mentioned, so maybe she's off eating ice cream. But it's Sunnydale, so it's probably evil ice cream. Angel isn't mentioned by name, but you'll hear talk about the powers that be and a champion, and who else could that be but him? At least until Spike gets his soul back later on. Buffy's mother Joyce is dead, and Spike is on better yet shaky terms with the Scoobies, so I'm guessing it's towards the back half of the season. So this next bit gets a little convoluted, so bear with me. Ethan Rayne comes back, and it turns out that he's in some sort of a snit with the First, which is to say the First Evil, who is also a Monster of the Week from Buffy Season 3 and the Big Bad from Season 7. Ethan had made a bid to the First for the power of the Lords of Chaos, some demons that he worships, in addition to escaping imprisonment. As part of this agreement, the First made a bargain with him that involved each party choosing champions to fight against each other. Ethan's chosen Buffy, Faith, Spike, Willow, and Xander as a stand-in for Oz, because Oz, very long skipped town by now.
I know it's hard to accept at first.
Actually, it explains a lot.
The gang is teleported to an alternate reality where they have to gather the body parts of one of Ethan's ancestors to get Hope's Dagger, a magical MacGuffin that can help them defeat the First. Each character is in their own level with their own respective bosses, like Willow fighting a vampire version of Tara, Spike fighting Adam, things like that. The writers did a nice job of tying together what could have had a lot of plot holes by making some explanations pretty quickly during the story as well, like how Faith got here when she should be in jail after her meltdown in Season 1 of Angel, along with little callbacks to other parts of the series, like the aforementioned Oz leaving town. So there's a lot here for fans to enjoy. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the game is at its best because basically everything else is just lacking. So this is a third-person beat-em-up just like the first game. It's got a linear setup, and you just go from level to level fighting enemies, getting a key to a door, or solving some other key-related puzzle. There's almost always keys or switches involved. Then you fight a boss every once in a while, and then you move on. But this time around, the fighting feels a lot clunkier, and that leads to you and the computer making a lot of mistakes. Targeting is really finicky in this, which leads to a lot of missed attacks, or when you've punched or knocked down an enemy, you'll continue to finish your attack and go right past them, leaving you vulnerable. The computer has this issue also, so that means you'll both actually be trying to hit each other, and it's just embarrassing to watch. Even if the targeting worked, you're repeatedly attacked by enemies in sets of 2, so while you're fighting one, your attacks will get interrupted by the other one landing a hit. You can't cancel your combos, so you'll just watch helplessly as your character keeps going while the enemies may or may not successfully hit you. The exception to this is Willow, who can fight and cast magic spells that happen to be a lot cooler than anything she ever did on the show, except for maybe the end of Season 6 when she went nuts and tried destroying the world. Item management is also a pain because there's no way to quickly heal or select from a couple quick access items. You also can't check your items from a pause screen anymore like in the first game, so now when you're low on health, you have to give yourself enough time and distance from your enemies to cycle through all the items to find your med pack and heal that way before you get killed. And enemies do not merely run, but sprint at you like they're from World War Z, so you don't have a lot of time to do this. Their insistence on trying to run as fast as Usain Bolt makes it difficult to use other items like holy water, or in Willow's case, just casting a spell in time before she gets punched in the face. Think about that for a second. They made a game where Willow can get punched in the face. What does that say about them? You still have to stake vampires at low health to kill them, and this time around the staking is more forgiving. Almost a little too forgiving though. There's a quick stake button, which is a godsend when you need to kill something, but you can also stab a vampire with a sword to kill it, or with the end of a battle axe, or a baseball bat. What kind of superhuman strength does Xander or Willow have to shove a baseball bat so hard into a vampire's chest that it goes through flesh in a rib cage to finally pierce a heart? The fighting doesn't really have that same oomph that it did in the last game either. Last time when you'd land a finisher, there was this brief slow motion moment and there's some cool glowy effect on Buffy where you can really feel and see the hit land. And now there's almost no effect that goes with it except for just like this little lame glowing fist or foot. I missed that extra touch in this game. But even beyond all of that, I think the biggest problem that this game had was that the levels got really stale after just a little while. There's more backtracking this time around, and the different hoops that you have to jump through just to get a door unlocked get pretty ridiculous after a while. And speaking of doors, I feel like I spent most of my time playing this checking doors to see if they were locked or not, or running around in circles just to consult a guide and find out that there's a key card on the ground that is barely visible that I've been running by for 20 minutes. Or a tiny little half-broken lock that I'm supposed to know to kick off at the gate when I could barely see it.
Stupid plumber!
And all of this is made worse by the fact that there are lots of areas in this game where you're fighting enemies that respawn an almost infinite amount of times. So you don't really have time to sit and kind of examine what you're trying to do. With the combat being as unpolished as it is, this will whittle your health down to 0 over time, and if you haven't gotten to a checkpoint, you'll have to start the whole section over. Furthermore, if you back out of the game to the main menu or just turn it off altogether, you will start at the beginning of the level and not at the most recent checkpoint. Look, I'm a fan of retro games and all the flaws that come with them, but this just felt kind of like I was really itching to play something else by the last level. I would be remiss to not mention the multiplayer. So for some added replayability, there's a multiplayer component to the game, and everything you unlock in the main story goes toward either multiplayer characters or stages, or you can unlock some admittedly pretty awesome interviews with the cast. That's basically it. To sum up my thoughts on Chaos Bleeds, it has all the character and writing to make this great, but it just didn't have the polish it needed to actually be fun, and that ultimately makes this a worse pick over the original Buffy game. Like, it is a game that if you played through it, you're not going to go back to it a second time. If you're really that interested in the story, I would advise you to watch someone playing it on YouTube and save yourself some time and frustration. And who knows, maybe with the new Buffy stuff coming, we'll finally get that perfect Buffyverse game I've been waiting for so long. Or maybe even a smaller developer will make a brand new beat-em-up more like what was done with River City Girls, or Streets of Rage 4, or Double Dragon Gaiden. I'd love to see something like that with this franchise. Anyway, there's a lot of reason to be hopeful for something like that in the future because Buffy is a beloved franchise with a devoted following, and developing games has only gotten easier with time. That's all for this review. Thanks for watching.